Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for new stories from YellowCat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. Today at work, I sold -1 cars. Reddit, what things have happened at your jobs that you just did not think were possible? A lady came in and threw the keys to the car she bought Saturday and left. Her lawyer came in and produced a sheet signed by a judge declaring her mentally incompetent 6 months ago, and her son has power of attorney in regards to money management. He wasn't present Saturday, and obviously we didn't know she was badass crazy because, hey, how often does that happen in a dealership? I guess she just decided it'd be great fun to buy a car randomly. She was actually a really nice person when you came in. Today, however, she seemed about 2 seconds away from beginning to froth at the mouth. That is how I became the first person at my dealership to sell -1 cars. I overcharged a guy $20,000 on a credit card. He had a bill for $2,222 and I charged him $22,222. I had no idea a credit card machine would accept that much, let alone that anybody has a spending limit over $20,000 on a credit card. I told him what happened after I found out over the weekend from the accounting department what I just did. So I called the guy and told him we were going to reimburse the $20K. His reply? Oh, that's embarrassing. I didn't even notice it was missing. Turns out he was a former Google VP. Well, on a more positive note, I'm in college to become a special education teacher, but I currently work part-time in a special education classroom as a paraprofessional. We had a 6-year-old girl with autism last year. Sweetest kid in the world, but she didn't speak. Her mom had given up and eventually she split and left her daughter in foster care. Luckily, a foster family in the area took her, so we were able to continue working. She was working well with a speech device, and that was enough for her teacher, but not for me. I tried to get her to speak at every opportunity. June rolls around and it's the last 2 weeks of school. She's come a long way and done so much, but still hasn't said a word in her life. We're outside playing in the grass and I ask her, June, what's your favorite color? I expected the mechanical voice of the touchpad, but instead, she deliberately pointed to the sky and said, blue! I cried, the other paraprofessional cried, and we called her foster parents so they could cry too. We never dreamed that would happen, but it did. She's doing very well this year and has a vocabulary of about 20 words. I babysat for her over the summer, and her 5th word was friend in reference to me. I'm a bank teller, and one day when balancing out my drawer, I came up $30 short. Our policy says any outage over $25, long or short, results in a write-up. I was looking frantically hoping to find it. I've only been at my job for 3 months, and I didn't want to be wrote up. After 30 minutes of searching every possible reason for why I would be short $30, I pulled up what my computer read for my tills. It said I had $980 in 50s. $980 in $50 bills. I bring this to the attention of my boss so we could correct it. She confirmed that was the reason I was short. I once worked in a coffee shop that ran out of coffee for about 20 minutes. I saw a man fired because a customer complained about him doing H in the bathroom. I've seen a woman in her 40s make out with a teenage boy. She was peed when we told her to stop. A waitress once knocked a fire extinguisher off of the wall, filling the entire restaurant seating area with choking dust. Customers continued to sit and chat with their friends until we told them they had to leave because you can no longer breathe the air. The cleanup that night was H. I've seen employees told to go home because they had soiled their pants to the point that it is obvious from 100 feet away. They had to be told. I've seen doctor's notes for work absences reading, diagnosis, assault. I've seen people superglue serious hand lacerations back together so they could continue working. I've worked a 12-hour shift with a 103-degree fever while walking to and from work in the rain at 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Food service industry worker. I could go on forever and ever. You've probably heard the phrase like yelling fire in a crowded theater to describe the onset of underpandemonium, yeah? This is in fact not true. We had an electrical fire in one of the projection booths while I was working at a very busy 20-screen theater. All of us employees had to go around to the individual cinemas to announce that there was a fire in the building and everyone had to stay calm and follow evacuation instructions. No one really moved. The films were still running, except the one with the fire in the projection booth, and people were extremely reluctant to leave even though we told them there was a fire. So if you yell fire in a crowded theater, people will probably just sit there like idiots because they want to see the end of their film. I was working in the sporting goods department of a very large retail chain that sells guns. A man and his significant other come to the counter and tell me they wish to purchase a rifle. After inspecting it, he declares that he would like to purchase it. I file the normal paperwork and call the FBI hotline, only to find out that he is a convicted felon. I inform him that there was an issue and I can't sell this to him. I give him the hotline number and the request code, which is SOP for this store chain. He tells me that his wife will purchase it. I tell him that is not an option because she was with him during his attempt to buy a firearm per the law. He then asks for 2 machetes out of the case. He is very upset at this point, so I tell him I need my manager approval for the sale. I call the manager over and the guy goes ballistic on the manager because I wouldn't sell him the machete without approval. The manager sells them to him and writes me up for poor customer service. Effing retail. We had a manning shortage, and I ended up working in the fore ends of a submarine and firing torpedoes worth over $6.5 million. I know that in the movies it looks like the captain fires a torpedo by pressing a button in the control room, but in fact, it only sends a signal to the forward torpedo room where a guy, in this case me, operates a handle with a small button on the top, like the handbrake on an old car, that actually propels them out of the tube with a burst of compressed air. I fired 6 Mk-48s that day worth, I was told at the time, $1.1 million each. Of course, the expenditure was not actually so high because they were retrieved. I work at a sheriff's restaurant, which is basically like a regional IHOP in the PNW. In our front display case with fresh pies, we also had a tray of caramel pecan cinnamon rolls that were at least 4 years old because they were sprayed with food preservatives and other stuff. Calcified/hardened, impossible to do anything with. Apparently, we had a host, was eventually fired for good reason, that sold one of those rolls to a customer. A lady asked him for a roll and pointed at the one in the display case. Instead of telling her that those rolls were for display purposes only, he apparently took the tray into the back of the kitchen, how no one noticed is beyond me, and hacked at it with a steak knife and God knows what else. He boxes the roll up and sells it to the lady. Meanwhile, no one has noticed that the tray of rolls in the front display case is gone. Several hours later, this lady calls back and demands to speak with the manager. Apparently, she had no idea what she was supposed to do with this fossil. Was she supposed to call the health department, the police, or what? I don't think she tried to eat it, though reportedly, she microwaved it and it started smoking. Needless to say, we gave her a full refund as well as a free pack of cinnamon rolls. You'd think the guy cutting into it would have realized that if it takes that much effort to cut into the rolls, there's probably something amiss. A few years ago, I was an assistant store manager at Kroger. Yes, I'm telling you who it was because they were so horrible. I witnessed the following. Employees putting their cigarette butts out in the sanitation sinks for washing trays your food goes onto in the meat department. Employees icing coffee cakes with their bare hands, just sticking their hands with rings on into the tubs of icing and drizzling the icing over the coffee cakes. The store manager saying, "We already have one piece of ass woman on the night crew, we certainly don't need another," as a reason that he would not approve our HR coordinator hiring another female to stock shelves. What is worse is that her and I had a meeting with corporate HR on it, and rather than investigate, look at hiring records or anything, they accused us of trying to take him down so one of us could get his job. Which is untrue because even if he was let go, one of the managers of the smaller stores would have taken over our store. Employees redating food that was expired. Numerous health code violations. You would think that as a manager, I could have done something about this, but no. I was told to apologize to the employee that I wrote up for icing coffee cakes with her bare hands and was informed if I ever did that to such a good woman again, that I would be asked to leave the store. I was looking for another job the entire time I worked there, but eventually quit before finding one due to HR telling me I was just trying to bring my boss down. 2 months later, I found a great job. I will never buy anything from a Kroger again, and after hearing some of my stories, neither will some of my friends. A few cool car dealer stories from past employment. 1. Crappy dealer I worked for. The lot porter was doing inventory on the lot and moving new cars around. They used those lock boxes that you roll the windows up on so the keys are with the car. They couldn't get the lockbox open. Then they run the VIN on inventory and find that they never took delivery of the car, yet there it was. 1 hour later, find out the car was reported stolen from a dealer 200 miles away. Someone stole the car, drove it to my town, parked it on the lot, and left it where it sat for over 1 month. 2. Great dealership I worked at. A couple comes in to take a car for a test drive. Some people are gone for 10 to 15 minutes, 30 minutes tops. Salesman calls the cell phone number, no answer. 1 hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, nothing. At the end of the day, the sales department calls police to report the car stolen, only to be told it isn't stolen because we gave them the car to test drive and didn't put a time or distance limit on the car. The car is returned the next morning with 500-ish miles on it and an empty tank. Never saw the couple again. 3. Service department manager comes in one morning and sees a customer's car in the parking lot on a jack with a wheel missing. Someone stole a wheel. Odd, just one rim was stolen. Towards the end of the day, someone sees a guy putting the wheel back on that car. Turns out some random guy had a blowout on his car, walked down the road during the night, and took a random wheel off a car, put it on his car. Then, later on in the day, got a new tire for his car and came back to return the borrowed wheel he took. Related to story number 3, a friend and I were driving to a meeting late one night, or early one morning if you want to look at it that way, when we got caught in terrible blizzard in unfamiliar territory. My friend was driving very slowly through the whiteout conditions, trying to find a safe spot to pull off the road. We ended up sliding down this massive hill with absolutely no control. At the bottom of the hill, we slammed sideways into the curb and badly damaged both rims on the driver's side. So here we are in a blizzard in the middle of nowhere, almost out of gas with a busted ride. Oh, and did I mention this was before cell phones were even remotely common? Then, through the snow, we see a sign for something. We braved the cold to see what it is and if they have a phone we could use. Unfortunately, it was a car dealership. So we hatched our brilliant plan and stole 2 wheels from a display car and left a note explaining our distress and that we would return with payment. We managed to make it into town and found a hotel before we found a gas station. The next morning, we couldn't get the D car started because it was out of gas. Spent an entire day trying to get a tow truck. Small town had 2 trucks, both were booked solid because of the blizzard. It wasn't until the next day that we returned to the dealership to pay whatever they asked for the wheels, honestly expecting to be arrested. Turns out the guys hadn't noticed the things were even gone since some nearby trees had blown over in the storm and damaged a bunch of cars. They were already in the process of submitting an insurance claim for the damages and just had a good laugh with us and told us not to worry about paying. Good times, except for the almost freezing to death part. Thank you for watching. Guys, thank you for all the support and the likes. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. See you next time.